So in brainstorming, as you can see in this diagram, the wheat is seated. There's the wheat team lead in green, and everybody has their paper. So please do not discuss, brainstorm, brainstorm, brainstorm. And don't deny any other person's opinion, because we are diversity in thinking, there's diversity in thought process. So then we come and see the small papers that are popping up. These ones are the now tallies from the different wheat members. So when somebody says a point, then we tally, so that we can look at those that are merging or are similar, we put them together. Those that are repeated, we put it as one. And then each time you are asking your why question and when you are responding, it is important to complete the sentence. Why does this happen? It happens because, but don't leave the statement hanging. Because when, for example, you say, when you're exploring people under the main categories of the fishbone, so you are saying this problem occurs because under people, there's insufficient training. But maybe your question is, why is there poor infection prevention in this facility X? But when you say insufficient training, on what? Is it on infection prevention? Is it on patient management? Is it on tools handling? So you have to be very specific so that you can be able to address the specific problem that you're looking to address through the Kaizen process. So instead of just the ones in red, highlighted in red, is just to show you how to complete the sentence that you are answering. So when you say there is insufficient training, you should expound further and say there is insufficient training on waste management, just to be specific. If it is weak knowledge of staff, on what? On hand hygiene. So that when you are doing your countermeasure, you know specifically what to implement. When you say weak knowledge of staff, it's so broad that you cannot tailor a countermeasure to address that root cause. So SOP is not available for emergency trolley setting. So that when you do your countermeasure in step 4, you are able now to address it specifically. So you merge, this is just a repetition to emphasize, you merge all the possible causes if they are similar, analyze the root causes in detail by asking why is this happening as many times as possible. Then you have consensus on the categories, and then you place them now in the specific categories. So as I'm continuing to click on the cursor, you can be able to see how the arrows are feeding into the main bone. The arrows are pointing into the main bones. So this is what we're envisioning. So a practical example under people. Number 1, we said why IPC activities are not well practiced. The problem is maybe in our step 2, we identified there was poor IPC in that facility. But now when you are coming to put them in the step 3 in root cause, we said the effect or the contributing factor should be put in a question form. So this is a classical example to show. So why IPC activities are not well practiced. Under people, there are new staff that are not oriented on IPC. So the new staff not oriented points directly into the main bone coming from the question. Now, because we have not stopped at why the new staff are not oriented, you ask yourself why. It's because IPC is not included in the orientation program. So because this IPC not included is answering to the new staff, then this arrow of IPC should point to the arrow pointing to the new staff. I hope we are we all together?
Correct. Yes, we are getting you, Halima.
Are we getting how the arrow points? Because this is something I've noted when I'm looking at the projects people are doing at the facility during coaching. I've seen that this is a major challenge, where the arrows and how the arrows are facing and where the arrows come from. So when you've asked the first question and you've gotten your first answer, The second Y will point towards the first Y. Then after this IPC not included, you don't have a Y. So you come number 2, staff have insufficient knowledge on IPC. Why do staff have insufficient knowledge? Training on IPC was not effective. So we are seeing number 3 is pointing towards number 2. Because staff have insufficient knowledge. Why have staff insufficient knowledge? Because training on IPC was not effective. It was done but not effective. Why was the training not effective? Because IPC materials were not comprehensive. So this number 4 will point towards number 3 because it is answering question number Y number 3. So try to ask why does this happen many times as possible. And then you put a red circle on the root cause. So for this step, we can be able to identify, they have circled one root cause. But on this side, you can also see that there's another root cause here, that IPC is not included in the orientation program. I hope all of us noted that this was not circled, and it is a root cause because we didn't ask why. It ended at IPC not included. So just a wrap up of the steps. So first, you pick the prioritized contributing factors based on the Pareto chart, the 80-20 rule, so that we have the vital few and the useful many. So for the vital few, when you solve them, we expect a ripple effect on the useful many. So we pick from step 2. Then we set prioritized contributing factor as the head of the fishbone. And we remember we said in a question form. And then you group the causes under the major cause categories. So there's the 4M, there's the M shell, and then we have our 5P. After that, by using a red pen or a marker, circle the identified root causes. Then the identified root causes are the ones we are going to take now to step 4. So as we come to the end of this presentation, the points to check in step 3. While you're saying we are done with step 3, we have winded up, kindly ensure that you go through this checklist and ensure that everything is done as per. You check whether the prioritized problems or the contributing factors identified in step 2 is used as the head of the fish or not. So in here, you also check that you have the adequate number of the fish bones. If there are 2 contributing factors, we need to have 2 fish bones. If there's any no, you go back to the drawing table and do the step 3 again. Then check whether contributing factor in the head of the fishbone diagram is stated in a sentence. Why the contributing factor happened in a question form. Then check the cause effect. Is there a relationship? Just to test if you're answering the right question. Like for example, to test this matrix here, why IPC activities are not well practiced? Because IPC training materials was not comprehensive. Tunaona zinaendana. They are speaking the same. It is answering the question. Then you come to this other root cause that was not circled, this one. Why IPC activities are not well practiced? Because IPC is not included in the orientation program. You can see they are marrying. The effect is answering, the cause is answering the effect. Though there is a correlation. So the cause-effect relationship is very, very clear. Then check whether why and because is asked enough to find the root cause. If not, you continue asking the why. Then check whether sentences used in fishbone diagram are clearly stated or not. Because when you don't state them clearly, you'll be solving a completely different question. Because let's say, for example, here, when you go to step 4, you're doing your countermeasure, the primary countermeasure will be to include IPC in the orientation program. But if you miss this out, you did something that was not tallying with the question or the problem, then you'll be solving something that you didn't anticipate to solve. And when you solve it, you don't see change. You don't see the change effect. So check whether all the identified root causes are clearly marked with the red circle or not. Then check whether no money, no human resource, no material, haufiki dead end, usiseme no staff. We don't have a root cause of something we cannot address. Then check whether the fishbone diagram is developed for each contributing factor. which needed to be tackled or not. So I think with this, we can try and develop a fishbone. Kwa wale ambaye maybe our projects have reached step 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
That's you.
Halima. I see there are some few questions on our chat box. There is Vincent Ongera, who asks, elaborate on physical condition of the workers. Vincent Ongera elaborate on physical condition of the workers. I don't know if Halima, you're getting the question from Vincent Ongera.
Yes, I've gotten the question on elaborating on the physical condition of the workers. It could be capacity-wise. It could be attitudes on perception. It could be stigma. So something to deal with them as a personality, besides skills.
Okay. There's another question from Lawi Murunga. Lawi Murunga is asking, why did you circle? I think he's asking, why did you circle the last resort of your analysis?
So we circle the last resort so that we can be able to identify this is the root cause. This is what we have identified because we have asked why, and this is the last why. There's nothing else that can explain it. So we circle what we have identified as the root cause.
Okay. Lawi is getting explanation. Service delivery and improve on indicators. However, not used across board. How can we promote staff buy-in?
I feel the major hindrance of staff buy-in is the lack of information, lack of knowledge, inadequate skill. So somebody fears. Mtu akisikia Kaizen anasema hizo ni mambo mengi, but when you get to learn, when you get to acquire the skill, you get to understand, then staff will buy in, because as you are doing your Kaizen processes, you actually envision the change. Unaona tu hii shida ishakuwa solved. So I feel the major hindrance with healthcare workers, personally, from a personal perspective, because I also had the same, nilikuwa naona tu hii ni kazi nyingi. Hii QI, hapana, nikisikia kuna meeting ya Kaizen, I am looking for a reason to go for lunch early. But when I got the knowledge, when I got the coaching, I got the training, and I felt confident enough, it is something that I developed passion and I love doing. So I just feel we continue capacity building. Continued capacity building, refresher, CMEs at facility. When people have challenges, we be patient and work with them.
Okay, thank you so much, Halima. There is a compliment from Nasibo Sarbo, says, well done, Halima. Victor Mainga says, how will I apply the 5 whys to get the best root cause? How will I apply the 5 whys to get the best root cause?
So as we've seen earlier, how best to apply the 5 whys, we had seen when you are doing your 5 whys, we are supposed to brainstorm as a team. Because of course your process depends on somebody else that is working prior to you, before you. So your process, tuna zile mura. So somebody else's process is affecting your process. That's why we want to do it as a team. You might think of only one why, but when you are sitting as a team, the other colleague sees, maybe work. And of course, you've seen the